Hello, good evening. Welcome to another episode of Critical Conversations live from Denver. It is Friday night. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode. And as always, I am joined by my beautiful wife, Melissa.
Hello.
And we want to thank everybody who is joining us in the stream this evening. Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for your kind comments about our loss this week, as we tweeted out this week. For those of you who follow us on social media or subscribed to my channel, I posted about the fact that we this week lost our beautiful, lovable little ball of love and joy, Seven the Wonder Cat. And I'm going to let Melissa do most of the talking about that. I just wanted to say from my end that I was with Seven for the last 5 years, and meeting Melissa, I got to meet him and have that relationship. And I will say that it felt awesome because from day one of being introduced to him, he was kind of interested in me and was not running scared like he does with so many other people who would come into the house or apartment or whatever. He would run and hide, and he didn't. And he came out, and we immediately started bonding. And such a wonderful little cat, as you guys have seen over the last year to whatever we've been broadcasting these shows and doing our 7 cam. And I made Seven part of this because I wanted to, kind of let y'all know, share the love. Really is what I was trying to do. Just got our wonderful little cat, and I wanted to share that experience with you guys, and you kind of fell in love with him too. So we got to all share in that experience, and it was a bummer to lose him this week, and it caused a great deal of reflection on my part, which you'll hear about in my podcast that I recorded today that'll go up tomorrow. And there's a lot of reflection there about not just losing a pet, but the stages of recovery, the stages of grief, I should say, and some thoughts I had about that in my own recovery. So I wanted to throw that out there for you guys. And now I'm going to kind of turn it over to Mel because she's got some things to say about this as well.
Yeah. I'll start with try to be brief about his little biography, and then we'll get to what happened. So I first met Seven in a pet store 15 years ago, about this time of year, right around Thanksgiving. And I was in the market for a kitty. Me and my ex were, but more me than him, but we were thinking about getting like a year or two old cat. We had kind of looked at some cats. You know how PetSmart always has those adopt-a-kitties. We looked at a couple of PetSmarts and saw some older cats, but didn't quite feel the vibe yet. And then when Westminster Mall here in Colorado was still around, we went in there, and there's this little pet store, and I know you shouldn't give them money, but I saw Seven behind the glass there with all his little brothers and sisters, and he was the only orange and white one, and he was so cute, and he looked right at me, and so I was like, okay, I gotta play with this little kitten in the play area at least, right? So then we went and played in the play area, and he just immediately loved me, and I immediately loved him, and we were just like, okay, he's coming home. And so I took him home. He was 2 months old. His birthday is September 3rd, 2006, so he was a little over 2 months old, and it's a tiny little thing, and he used to sit on my shoulder when I was on the computer and everything, and just cuddle up, and like he was never scared of me, just like he was never scared of Chris for whatever reason. Like he always was nervous around new people most of the time. Some people he comes out for the first or second time. Some people never comes out for. He's always been scared of my dad, but I think that's because my dad has a low voice. Also, whenever he was coming over to my house, it was usually to fix something. So it was like, there's the guy that makes the loud noises.
Seven did not like loud noises.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then over 15 years, he's moved to a lot of different places with me, been through a lot of different relationships and friendships and stuff with me, and 15 years is a long time. I mean, that's longer than a lot of my friendships. I mean, there's a few friendships I have longer than that, but not many. So it's really wonderful to have, a living being in your life that long, especially one as special as 7. He was the first pet I ever had as an adult that I was the sole caretaker of, like I had pets when I was a kid growing up and stuff like that. But, my parents were always sort of the ones taking him to the vet and paying for their food and all that kind of stuff. But now it was my responsibility, and I just, I dug him. I loved him so much, and he was always my little buddy. And sometimes he could sense when things were wrong, and he'd come cuddle with me or lick my face or something. Like even one time, in the last few weeks, as he was getting sicker, I was crying about him, and he came up and started licking my face. And I'm like, I'm supposed to be comforting you, kitty.
He did provide an awful lot of emotional support.
Yeah. And, there's just some great stories. When he was a kitten and I had first split up from that ex that I had gotten him with, I was in this apartment all by myself, and it was just me and him. And I heard him meowing one night, and I was like, where is this cat? I can't find this freaking cat. And then I look in my hallway closet, and there's a little hole in the wall. And I hear him meowing from that little hole, and I had to coax him out because I couldn't just pull him out. It was too tight of a hole. So I had to coax him out and get him out of there. And then I had to complain to the apartment to fix the hole. But man, that poor cat. He was always so curious when he was younger. He was getting himself into trouble. He was always getting himself dirty and getting into things that he shouldn't get into. And as he got older and bigger and stronger, he started to be able to do things like open cupboards and open the refrigerator door, which ended up leading to an argument with another ex I had where I thought he was coming over to my house and leaving the refrigerator door open when he left. So I got irritated with him, and I was like, don't do that anymore. And then later we found out it was the cat.
Yeah, we had to literally put child locks on all the kitchen and bathroom cabinets that he would have access to. And I had to do that each of the times that we have moved because he was just ruthlessly efficient about getting into places he should not get into.
He had those big old paws, and he was strong. So, But he was also such a sweet little scaredy cat too. I mean, I had a friend, I was taking care of my sister's cat and 7 at the same time for a little while, and they were good friends, but her cat wasn't fixed. So my other friend had a not fixed female cat, and we decided, let's make some kittens. So one of the kittens came to stay with me for one night because it was in transition from my friend's place to my sister's friend's place who was going to adopt the kitty. I mean, there's a little tiny kitten, and 7 was already full grown, and he was terrified of her. Terrified. He was in the corner, just and I'm like, you're 5 times, 10 times as big as her. I mean, what?
He was such a scaredy cat. Yeah.
Yeah, but he was just silly like that, and he loved weird things. He loved green olives. That was his favorite food in the whole wide world, and we discovered that because my sister was over at my apartment one night, and we love green olives too. So we ordered a pizza with green olives. One of the green olives fell off her slice, and he came running over and ate it. And we were like, did he eat that because he smelled the other stuff? Or did he eat that? And then he was begging for more. And so we were like, okay, we'll give him some more green olives. And he really liked them. And then he tried to steal her plate. So yeah, and ever since that moment, he discovered green olives, and that was his favorite thing. I mean, anytime he'd bring out some green olives, he was there like, okay, where's mine? And yeah, and of course he loved the usual cat things like tuna and salmon and chicken and turkey and that kind of thing. And he loved it if I'd come home with turkey from my parents on holidays and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm trying to think of some other good stories about him. Oh yeah, you'll see later, but my friend that I used to have, she had a bunny, and I babysat it one time, and And he had been he had met that bunny before, but like that bunny was so scared of him, but he just wanted to be friends with it. It was so cute. Like he would just try to bathe her and groom her and stuff and hang out, and she was like, no. Like, you're a cat, I'm a bunny. What are you doing here? Yeah. And I don't know, there's this lot of stories. I'm not remembering all of them right now, but he's just always a good cat, always very sweet. You know, he always liked when you change the sheets, he always liked to jump on the bed and get under the sheets. And then he'd run around under the sheet. And yeah, I don't know, it's hard. And so what happened, I'll tell you what happened, was about 3 weeks ago. It'll be 3 weeks tomorrow. Well, actually, I'll go back a little further than that. So back in October, he started getting sick. He was throwing up all the time. And when we were on our little trip to California and Oregon, our friend who was taking care of him, took him to the vet. They couldn't really find anything. So then we got back and he just kept throwing up, and then he was having diarrhea and he was making weird meowing noises. So we took him back to the vet again. They didn't really find anything, but they did find out that he had gas, like really bad gas. So she was like, go get an ultrasound. So we went and got an ultrasound. And 3 days after the ultrasound, we got the call from the vet, and she said that he has cancer of both the intestines and the pancreas, and that at most he had a few months to live. She said you could do chemotherapy or surgery, but it probably wouldn't extend his life by much, and the surgery would be so painful and invasive, you know. So we were like, okay, we'll make him comfortable, and he just went downhill really fast. He just stopped eating as much. He didn't eat his favorite foods anymore. He didn't want to eat green olives anymore. And that was really surprising and a big sign for me. And I mean, he loves food. Like usually he would just suck it down, you know. But then he started just eating tiny little bit or nothing at all. And then he stopped drinking water pretty much almost totally. Even like, 'cause he loved to get water from the faucet in the bathroom. But even that, like I'd turn it on and sometimes he wouldn't do it at all, or he'd just do a tiny little bit and run away. And then he was just getting weaker, and, you know, he was just having a lot of trouble with stuff. And he wasn't, you know, having any bowel movements or anything like that because of the intestinal stuff. So it was getting bad. And I finally just had to make the call, you know, to put him to sleep. So we put him to sleep on Wednesday night. We had someone come to the house to do it, and that I'm really glad we got to do that. The reason we did that, of course, is like I said, Seven is a shy, nervous kitty, and we didn't want to, you know, he hated going to the vet and he hated going in the carrier. So we just decided to do it at home. And like I said, it was, you know, for what it was a good experience. You know, that vet was very nice. He was very patient. He let us spend as much time as we needed through each step of it, let us play a little song for him and everything. And then, yeah, we cried a whole lot, and we got to hold him and say goodbye. And I have never had to put a pet down like that before. Like I've had pets die on me, but it was not like that, you know? So it was definitely a interesting experience because I'd never been through that before. It was really difficult to go through, but I'm also glad he got to go peacefully. And I just hope that, you know, if there is something else, I don't know, but if there is, I hope he's happy wherever he's at. And we're both gonna miss him so much. You know, he was my little buddy for 15 years, you know, and it's hard to let go. You know, we keep seeing stuff around the house and it's like, oh yeah, Seven, you know, or I think about, oh, I gotta go feed him or something. No, wait, you know, like,
right.
So well, I'm still getting used to that.
Yeah, it's only been 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a process.
Yeah.
It's a process, and it's been tough, and introspective, thought-provoking, in many ways for me and for us. And your comments here, guys, are just wonderful, just awesome. Thank you very much for everyone who has, expressed some sympathy and condolences and empathy here. We all, we know we're not alone or unique in this in any way. We're just sharing our experience about it because it just hit us and we're pretty raw about it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And I think on that note, we will.
Yeah, we decided to do one last sort of 7 video, and it's a little longer than usual. It's just a lot of pictures of him and everything, but we thought you guys might like that. And so it's a little memorial to him.
Right. So this is our final 7 cam.
Yeah.
And I hope this comes across. We tested it out okay, so I hope this comes off. And there we go. Sorry we looped that for a second there, but there you go. Our final, I guess, words on that matter. But anyway, there you go, guys. So we move on. There were a couple questions that came up while we were going along here. I thought I'd answer. Mel and I met at a place called the Secular Hub, which is a physical location, as well as a group that we're part of here in Denver, which is a secular atheist skeptic meetup group that umbrellas a lot of different activities, and we connected there, and then got to date and eventually, and one thing led to another. So that's where we met. And someone asked along the way here, what has been helpful in this? What helped you most during this? I'm going to ask you that first, and then I will.
Well, I think definitely Chris helped a lot. And my family and friends, they were all really great. Like a couple of my friends, they have had to go through this with pets and cats and stuff before, and they've had to put pets down before, and they gave really good advice. They gave, they gave good support, and they were just there for me, and they listened to me and stuff, and that was really good, And I think, and I did join some support groups on Facebook and stuff like that too, and got some good advice there too, and support. And I think those are the things that really helped, like just having people who've been through it to bounce things off of and be like, okay, and so I think that was what really helped me.
Yeah. I think there was a lot, how introspective I get. And if you don't, then I'll just let you know I get really super introspective. I think a lot, and I think about thinking a lot. I mentioned this in my podcast today. I think about emotion and all the big questions. That stuff's on my mind, kind of all the time. And the subject of death itself has been something that has been looming over my mind for a long time now, at least the last year. And I always say it's like a year. It could be like 3 years. I don't know, but it's been, it's been a while. And for me, one of the things that really helped sort this for me was really thinking through seven's significance, seven's life, and the fact that I came to a realization or a place where it was very, very, very clear to me that it's supposed to be this way, and that our grief and our loss is our expression of not wanting things to change, and things are the way we like them, or a person is the way we like them, or a thing is the way we like it, and when it becomes not there anymore, when it ceases to exist and is no longer possibly in our life anymore, and this applies with divorces and changes and losses and disconnections, and as well, it's not just death or a final door, because in so many ways, when you get disconnected in Scientology, for example, it's pretty final. That it's about us adjusting to that inevitable change. It's not a matter of us having done something wrong or right, and we've been talking a lot about the guilt involved in this, and the fact that you always look back and think, what could I have done, and this kind of thing. And the fact of the matter is that from an objective point of view, there is nothing else we could have done to extend or change that condition. And that's the truth. And when you can acknowledge that truth, then you don't have to necessarily sit there and agree with those feelings of guilt and feelings of awfulness. And then it's just a matter really of sort of letting yourself feel what you're feeling about the change, because it's a big change and there's a lot of things to adjust about that. And as she mentioned, though it's only been a couple of days, but I'm constantly still thinking that he's right around the corner, that I'm, I can't leave stuff on the table because he's going to come get it, or I can't, we have to close the doors, or the this or the that's, and those are things we really don't have to do anymore. And so I'm making those adjustments, and then it reminds you of this fact he's not going to be around anymore, and there's that loss. But you got to really feel the feelings of it. And if there is anything that I have come to a place of just rock solid certainty about, which is rare for me now. I'm not rock solid certain about hardly anything, but feeling your emotions is, that is a healthy thing to do. It is right up there, because I've already lived through the decades, and I think all of us have experienced suppressing the emotions, feeling guilt about your emotions, feeling that it's inappropriate, that it's wrong, that you're somehow wrong for feeling like that. These are not true things. It's okay to feel how you feel. And express yourself and express your feelings. And again, of course, in a healthy way. That doesn't mean you get to go, have a breakdown in the middle of traffic and, impinge on everybody else's life in an inappropriate way. But as far as expressing your emotions, have at it, and have a guilt-free existence in doing that, because it's perfectly okay to feel the way that you feel.
Right.
Yeah, and some of these things you guys are saying here are absolutely wonderful.
Somebody in there mentioned anticipatory grief, and they're right. It is awful. I mean, I hadn't really been through it this much before, because except for one cat, it wasn't obvious, when my pets were going to die when I was a kid. It was pretty sudden. And like this, is like, oh God, like you're just thinking about it every day. Is it going to be today? What's going to happen? Are we going to be able to have the ability to put him to sleep peacefully, or something awful going to happen? And you just have all those feelings, and it's ugly, man. But you have to, like he said, you have to let yourself feel that and go through it, or it's just going to eat you alive. Exactly.
And, I by the way, just to acknowledge this one track mind, I did notice this last time too. I definitely got that you want me to do a show on the Great Reset, and I will look into that. It'll be something I'll have to kind of dive into, though, because I haven't had any time to look into that with the other stuff I've been doing with the academic stuff and with my university thesis. So that's where all my time's been lately. But maybe I can figure out a show on that. Now, as far as the subject of this show, Oh my God, yeah. On staff, they told people not to be banky. Yes, were you ever told you had too much HE and R? Oh my God, all the time. Yeah, Scientology speak here. HE and R is the Scientology. Oh yeah, here's a Scientology teaching moment for you guys. HE and R, the human emotion and reaction.
Oh God.
That was the term that Hubbard used for when people were acting out and he didn't like it. Knock off the HE and R. The human emotion and reaction. Because we were supposed to be, homo novus, right? We were supposed to be better than human. So that was a bad thing for me to engage in. And that would be the way that they would tell you to basically shut the fuck up if you were over dramatizing, as they would put it, right? There are lots of terms in Scientology for oppressing emotional states or oppressing feelings or reactions to things that are perfectly organic and natural. Excuse me. So yeah. Okay. And yeah. I have heard about the Ghostbusters movie, but I have not seen it yet. Call sign Maverick. Looking forward to it. Yeah. I do have the Lego Ecto 1 vehicle.
Yes.
Which is an odd thing for me to brag about, but I do have that. But no, we haven't seen the movie yet. Okay, now the other thing that I thought we might talk about a little bit, since it's on this topic, right? Yeah, don't dramatize, that's right. And that has to do with something I alluded to or talked about, mentioned at the beginning of the show, is these 5 stages of grief, or as one of you mentioned, 5 elements of grief, which is not an entirely inaccurate way of putting it. This comes from research that was done by a psychologist, Kubler-Ross, back in 1969 in dealing with terminally ill patients. And she wrote a book called On Death and Dying, and posited or put forward this idea that there are stages, or stages is the right word for the grieving process, for what people go through. And this was not forwarded as I don't believe initially that these stages were forwarded as this is a siloing you must go through. Yeah. It was this is an observation of what most people seem to experience, which is a very different statement from this is what's going to happen to you, or this is what you're supposed to have happen to you when you're experiencing grief or loss. There is no supposed to when it comes to things like this.
No, and it's different every time. I mean, we were talking about that earlier, and every death in my life, human or animal or whatever, it's been different, like how sad and depressed it makes you, or angry or whatever. It just, it all depends on how did they die? What was their relationship to you? How much, affection and love was there, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Everything, in other words, context matters.
Yeah.
As I'm always preaching about, right? Context is king. It really matters who and when and how, because we're different people at different times in our life.
That's true too, yeah.
Radically different person from when I was 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. I mean, every one of those years would have been, you would have seen a very different me in many ways. Still this, obviously still the same basic, but lots of changes over the years. So anyway, so the point is not to pigeonhole anybody's experiences. The point is not to tell you how you're supposed to think. The point is to look at these and think, well, does knowing this and does thinking about this in any way clarify my own experience and help me to go through the process and make it easier to do so? And that's how I think about and would introduce this 5-stage model. There's a 7-stage model, and there are people who experience only some of these. There are people who experience none of these. Not a problem. Again, it's not that you're pathological for some reason if you don't. It's simply that based on observation of a majority of people, this seems to be what a majority of people experience, and as that's my understanding of this. And here we're talking about denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Those are our 5 stages. And in my podcast this week, I talk about these stages and make direct comparisons of them to my cult recovery. Because I found, interestingly, as part of this process, that the idea of what is, when I was saying earlier, grief and this process we go through has to do with change, massive, huge life change. Not necessarily the kind of change you're happy about, right? You're losing things that you find very valuable. So that's this adjustment period of having to like get used to that and deal with that and learn to live with that new reality. Some people have a very hard time adjusting to that new reality. And in fact, some people can't even necessarily fully ever adjust to that new reality of this person or thing or whatever no longer being there. And that includes cults and cultic belief sets and ideas. It doesn't just have to, why would it only have to apply to people as individuals? Or why would it only have to apply to living things or to pets? I mean, in a way, leaving Scientology, I lost tens, hundreds of people out of my life. Just like that. So I think this is an apt comparison. I don't think I have to argue too hard for that, but just wanted to sort of justify my reasoning on that. But looking at this against, how we deny, we don't want it to be true. We push back against the reality of it. We wish it weren't so. And then it starts encroaching and it becomes more real and more true. And you're like, I really don't want this. Really wish this wasn't this way. And that's where the anger comes in with, and some people will sublimate that anger. Some people will rechannel that anger. They'll think about it a different way. But that strong, strong resistance, that attempt to push it back, push it away, make it go away, it's strong. And that's part of that stage, right? Is where the actual reality of this change, of this loss is just kind of overwhelming, and it's like, no way, and you fight back. But as they say, when something bad happens, here I'm reading from this article, which I will copy for you guys and put into the comment section here. There you go. So if you want to check this article out for yourself, I kind of read from it and walk through it in the podcast, but I wanted to just say here, there's the bargaining step is the next step. When something bad happens, have you ever caught yourself making a deal with God? Please, God, if you heal my husband, I will strive to be the best wife I can ever be and never complain again. Right? This is bargaining. Trying to, we can't push it away. We don't have the force or energy or whatever to make it go away through force. We can't destroy it. So now we got to bargain with it. Now we got to try to, maybe I can moderate this. Maybe I can mediate this. Maybe I can make it less than what it really is. Or maybe I could still reason with it, make it go away somehow. And this is where we get, this kind of thing. Guilt is a common wingman of bargaining. This is when you endure the endless what if statements.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah, we don't know anything about that. What if I encouraged him to go to the doctor 6 months ago like I first thought? The cancer could have been found sooner and he could have been saved. I mean, I'm just reading right from the article here because this is what people go through. And I'm only relating all of this, again, is because this is what helped me through this process, big time. Was kind of learning about this stuff. Because then, of course, after you find that bargaining isn't making it go away either, and there is really no way around it, and in this case with the loss of 7 or the loss of people out of Scientology or whatever else I've experienced, it became abundantly clear to me that I was fighting the inevitable, and it wasn't about. Here was a big thing for me with this is there was nothing anybody did wrong. It wasn't. This wasn't happening because somebody screwed up. This isn't happening because somebody could have prevented it. This isn't happening. It's happening because it's inevitable. It's part of the process of our lives that we're going to die. And there's nothing we can do to ever stop or prevent that. And really grasping, like really accepting that, really holding, you go like, oh, right. And it wasn't about blame, and it wasn't about shame, and it wasn't about guilt. And once that got really super clear to me, then it was really just a matter of letting myself ride through the emotions of it. And I kind of, but intellectually, the acceptance was there. So then we hit the depression stage, and that's kind of riding it out, letting it happen. It's commonly accepted form of grief, as she writes here, right? It represents the emptiness we feel when we are living in reality and realize the person or situation is gone or over. In this stage, you might withdraw from life, feel numb, live in a fog, not want to get out of bed. The world might seem not too much, too overwhelming for you to face. That's the whole point. And of course, that's the emotional adjustment. Excuse me. I'm not trying to speak for everybody when I talk about it in these terms, but I feel very strongly that this is kind of what it makes a lot of sense to me that this is what we're doing, is we are processing a change. And the faster we can kind of accept some certain fundamental principles of life, like change is not only is going to happen, but it's necessary. Things have to do this. A static existence is a drudgery. It's an awfulness. We wouldn't want that. So things have to change, and that means things have to die off. And I think once I saw the necessity for that, it made it easier to accept the change. But that doesn't make it any easier to walk into the house and not have Seven here, right? And not have my friends from 20 years ago around that I can just pick up a phone and call.
Right.
That hurts. That sucks. I don't know that that's ever necessarily going to totally go away, or that it should. But the acceptance part is the last part. The final stage of this is after you kind of process that grief and go through that for whatever period of time you need to. You finally get to a place where you go, okay, I can live with this now. It doesn't mean, here's a crucial thing about this, about the acceptance part that I wanted to let you guys know about is, on the acceptance part, not in the sense that, it's okay, my husband died, but rather my husband died, but I'm going to be okay. In this stage, your emotions may begin to stabilize. You re-enter reality. You come to terms with the fact that the new reality is that your partner is never coming back, or that you're going to succumb to the illness or whatever it is, right? Oh, and in fact, I got to share this with you guys because this also was part of what made this livable for me and has helped me be here for you, is something else that came across my plate, which I want to share with you guys, which was read out to me at the Faithless Forum. We didn't do a show last week because I went to Austin, and I went to a YouTuber atheist convention down there. I had a great time, met some wonderful people I've had on my podcast. Seth Andrews was down there. We had some great times over the weekend. And one person who was on my podcast in the past is named Dave Warnock. And he has an ALS diagnosis that he got in 2019. It's a terminal illness. It's Lou Gehrig's disease. And he has started a thing called Dying Out Loud. And he's an atheist. He's a former evangelical pastor. And he gave a speech. And from it, he quoted from a poem. And I'm going to pull that up right now because I want to share this last bit with you because it just made such an impact on my life or on my thinking, and I thought you guys might kind of like it too. Let me find it. Here we go. Okay. This is a poem by a guy named Mario de Andrade, and My Soul is a Hat is the name of the poem. And I'm not going to read you the whole poem because Dave didn't even read the whole poem when he was doing his speech. He read the last line. And from it, I looked up the poem and was like very, very impressed by the whole thing. But here was the point. We have two lives. And the second begins when you realize you only have one. and this is that's sort of the cap of a whole set of ideas in the poem, where he talks about reaching an age where he's kind of sick and tired of the bullshit, kind of sick and tired of dealing with people who aren't going to change, aren't going to do anything differently. He doesn't want to deal with that anymore, and he doesn't want to deal with, it's kind of like when you reset your life, when you go, hey, I need to change everything. Some of us have done that, and when you do, you realize you're starting life anew. And it's kind of that kind of a thing, Of course, it has atheist connotations, which we can also talk about. But for this sense, it was very much about the lived experience of life and realizing that, oh, yeah, you think you got all this time. You think you got all this stuff. You think you got all this, time, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you come to a point in your life, maybe about halfway through, where you're like, hey, wait a minute. I've wasted an awful lot of this time screwing around with people who I really don't care for, and they don't care for me, and that's fine. And messing around with systems that don't make any sense, and wasting my time on things that are not useful or productive to me or helpful in any way. And I think I just want to stop doing that, and that's kind of where that goes. But it also, for me, really hit me between the eyes in terms of death and dying, because of course I am an atheist, and that's how I think about things. Mm-hmm. Are we having an argument in the comments?
Yeah, I want to address that.
Yeah, go ahead, baby.
I want to say what, they're arguing about if a pet and a human death equals each other. Okay. What I want to argue and say is what my friend told me when I was telling him about what was going on with Seven and how sad I was. And he just said, you know what? Love is love. That's it.
That's right.
That's it. Yes, you can buy a new pet, but it will never be the pet that you lost. No. I've had other pets before. They were not Seven, and I will probably have other pets again, but they will never be Seven. Just like I will never have another grandpa like my grandpa. I will never have another friend like Javi.
Right there.
Yeah, grief is grief.
What Martha Simmons just commented on here. Grief is grief. I think that is what we are discussing. I can't measure the importance of someone else's grief to their heart and growth.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
so I understand that visceral reaction to be like, well, it wasn't a human, but let's be nice to each other, because like she said, grief is grief, and like I said, love is love, and we don't know what that person or pet or whatever meant to that person, or what their situation is and what it makes them feel like, and everything like that. I mean,
yeah,
there's
exactly.
people in this grief support group that I'm in, there are single people that live all by themselves, and like their dog was the only thing that was keeping them happy,
Exactly. Yeah, judgment on this topic is kind of non sequitur. It's really not necessary. I mean, there is no reason to cast judgment towards a person who's going through the grief process about their grief. Why? What use does that have? I actually addressed that a little bit in the podcast too. I was a little more blunt about it though, because we've been talking about this, the fact that, we haven't necessarily received communications in that regard, except here in the comments today. But you've run into other people in the support groups who had.
Yeah, like some of them just get these comments from their family and friends, or like, well, you just get over it, that kind of thing, or why aren't you throwing their stuff away yet, or like it's just a dog, it's just a cat, just a bird, whatever, and it's like, don't do that.
Yeah, it's not necessary. You're going to find times, I think a minority of cases where a person can become a little pathological about their grief, but those are few and far between. And it's really not on you to make judgments about a person when they're, about how they're experiencing or processing their emotions. Mm-hmm. That's why we have experts and professionals and people who know how to deal with that kind of stuff. And those trained people are the ones who should be dealing with that kind of thing, because they're more educated on what is and isn't normal, abnormal, pathological, etc. Right? And the more we learn about this stuff in the fields of psychology and with grief counseling and death and dying and all this stuff that people really are spending a lot of time studying now, we're finding that the attitudes and nonsense of the old days and the just suck it up, buttercup attitude ain't so psychologically healthy for us.
Doesn't work. Yeah.
No, it's really not, you know. Which is not to say we all need to be wallowing in the streets and, you know, and all that. I mean, let's not go extreme either direction.
Destroy your life or anything, but it's okay to be sad.
Exactly. So, so there you go, right? And obviously, you know, if we can dedicate whole movies, I mean, how many movies do we see every year? Excuse me, dedicated completely to animals, from Old Yeller to Benji to
Marley and Me.
Marley and Me, that's right. It took a little bit of a dark turn, that one, but yeah, you know, we see that every year there are whole movies dedicated to the love and care and relationship we have with animals, kids, adults, right? So, so this idea that, you know, people who mourn the loss of their pets are somehow, you know, off their rockers or overly invested in the relationships is, it's really wrong-headed thinking. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so so there we go. Just kind of watching the comment stream by here now. Okay, now just to throw it out there, we're really kind of coming up on the last quarter of the show. So if anybody has anything quick they want to call in with, the lines are open. 984-214-4154 is the line there. And okay, good. Yeah, I think you guys are sorting stuff out in the comments here. It looks like I hate seeing people fight. Oh yes, Xen, I do. Well, do you think loss of a loved one through death or loss by breaking up the same or similar? Yeah, absolutely.
I think it can definitely be. Yeah, I mean, a breakup is still like someone's not there anymore. You're not going to have the same relationship with them anymore. They're gone. I mean, I think the nice thing about it is sometimes you can still be friends with that person, but like for the most part, it's that person's out of your life. You've had a big loss. If you lived together, that can make it even worse, because then it's the same thing as like losing someone through death. It's like, oh yeah, there's their stuff that they left here. Here's, you know, they're not going to be in the kitchen anymore making breakfast or something. You know, it's like you're going to still miss them the same way.
Exactly. Oh, thanks for that super chat, Sandy.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. I want to also say on that, you know, that it's interesting how even the language of shunning or disconnection is kind of similar to the language of dying. You're dead to me. Mm-hmm. You know, you no longer in my life. You're gone. You know, these kind of things. And it can be when you come to Amish shunning, some of the extremist sects with Islam. I mean, if they're not trying to kill you as an apostate, they'll shun you. And of course we have Scientology shunning, and all of these things are, you know, pretty bad. They are pretty complete. And a complete shunning is really, in effect, not really a whole lot different than the person dying for both ends. It's an active effort to, you know, push the person away and never let them back in. So for all intents and purposes, yeah. And that's one of the reasons why, by the way, we can relate all of this to the cultic experience at that level too, because the grief and the mourning and the loss and the 5 stages or elements or however, you know, the person's going to go through it equally apply there and are part of the trauma of leaving a cult or getting kicked out of one, you know? So that's not so good.
I'd say it's the same too for family estrangement, since I have experienced that. Is it's the same kind of thing, because like you're realizing like I can't have this person in my life anymore, so you have to grieve them even though they're still living. You know, I had to do that with members of my family, and it was interesting because we had been, that section of my family, we had been estranged for about 5 years. When my grandmother passed, she's one of the people that I was estranged from, am estranged from. And it was like, I felt sad. I did grieve a little bit, but like, it wasn't the same as other grieving times because I had already done all that work. I had already done that over those 5 years. You know, it was like, okay, she was never going to be in my life again anyway. So like now that she died, it was like, it was hard, but it wasn't the same kind of thing. It was really different.
Yeah. Yeah, big time. Um, oh, this comment here, "You're dead to me," meant to be hurtful.
Oh yeah, totally.
Sometimes, under some context, that is true. It is meant to hurt or lash out at a person because here's a person who's in a cultic mindset or a cultic belief set or extreme belief set who is agonizing themselves over losing son, father, mother, whatever, whoever's being shunned. It's not like people who are in cults don't have emotional lives too, but they're so subsumed into the belief set that they deny the emotional experience they're having or try to suppress it. But when the anger comes out, sometimes it can come out that way. "You're dead to me." That can certainly be a context, which is an effort to hurt this person for betraying the group, leaving, denying the values, etc. However, it can also be, there are also contexts where it is an expression of grief and loss, "Oh, you're dead to me," right? I can't deal with this anymore, and off they go. And it's not really anger, it's more of grief. So there's different contexts for that, I think. Yeah, I have no second wife. That's right. Thanks, hey hun. Oh, hey, there we go. Good. Let's pick these up. Yeah. All right. First one. Hello, is this Stacy?
Yes. Hi, Chris and Melissa.
Hi, Stacy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I just wanted to give you my heartfelt condolences.
Oh, well,
I have been there. Yes, I've been there, and I'm Drea in the chat by the mix.
Okay.
So I've been there. I lost 3 dogs in a span of 2 years.
Oh.
The oldest one was 18, and the youngest was 9.
Oh.
And the thing about it is, love is love.
Exactly.
How you feel about your pets, your animals, your fur babies, whatever term you want to call them, that is what you want to call them. However you feel about them, you love them. And so you grieve for them. You care about them.
Exactly.
It's not just a possession. It's not just an accessory. And nobody is trying to equate them to a human being. That's such a misnomer.
Yep.
I'm just saying I love my fur babies.
Yeah,
how is that so hard to understand?
Exactly.
And I grieve. The 18-year-old, when she passed, I was ready for her to pass because she was suffering. She was getting old and congestive heart failure. The 9-year-old, I lost it because I really wasn't expecting her to go so young.
Right.
And so, yes, each death does affect us, does impact us differently. Right. And so, like you said, the circumstances, who they are, how they were, and all those things impact us differently. And so, but the thing about it is, what I realized is my grieving made other people uncomfortable. And so there were people that could not support me because they perhaps could not get in touch with their own feelings. So, they tried to, do the logical thing. It's just a pet. No, this is my baby. So, I just had to go into spaces and places where I was allowed to feel my feelings.
There you go.
I don't need you to make this sound better or be logical about this. I am hurting.
Right.
I don't need logic right now.
Right,
I just need the space to allow me to hurt.
Right.
And so, the wonderful thing is, you have Chris there, and you have each other. And again, nobody is saying one is better than the other. We're saying you can love both.
Right.
And you can hurt about both.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Exactly.
So I just don't understand, this whole thing about it's just an animal. To me, my fur babies brought me to a certain emotional space and spiritual space that is very different from what I interact with most people.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, because I had to love it's like having a child, but this child can't talk to you. So you have to be so connected with this animal. Like Melissa, you were saying, you saw when he was getting sick. Because you're so in touch with your animal, you know, okay, wait a minute, something's going on. He's not feeling well. What's going on?
Yep.
Because he can't verbalize what's going on. So that means you even have to have more of a connection to your animal.
Yep.
When you really care about them, to be able to go, something's not right. They're not eating. He's not acting right. He don't look right. You know, he's not. So there's even more of a connection.
Yeah.
Because you really have to be in touch with this spirit soul creature that can't communicate the way other humans can.
Big time.
You know, on that same level. And so, you know, it's a deep connection. It's a beautiful connection. On my email, my signature is, until you have loved an animal, your soul remains unawakened.
Oh,
and I
beautiful.
truly believe that.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. And they bring us so much joy, but this is the sucky part about having an animal, having a pet, having a birth baby, having to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just this is, oh God, for all the beautiful moments, all the love, all the things you get from this moment, it sucks.
Yeah.
It really does suck.
Yeah, exactly.
But I never thought I would have pets again, and now I have 2 more dogs.
Okay.
And I love them in totally different ways. Like they've opened me to different levels of love. You know, just like different people in your life, you will love them differently. You're not going to love everybody the same. They're not going to bring the same things to your life.
That's right.
Exactly.
So, you know, love is love. And so I celebrate the love you had with Seven.
Thank you.
I know he is with you, and he is light in your life, and he's still with you.
Yeah.
And so I just want to give you both a big hug.
Thank
and
you.
Just know there's someone out there that understands. And I hold space for you to feel however you're feeling.
Thank you.
All right, Stacey,
All
thank
right.
you so much. Talk to you soon.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
All right. And we have 2 more calls in the queue, so we're going to pick those up. I believe this is Adria. Hello.
Hi, Chris. Hi, Melissa.
Hello.
Hi, Adria. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thanks. Yeah, I am, just to echo everyone else, I'm very sorry for your loss. And
Of
if I were
course.
there, I'd give you both a huge hug.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Big time.
you're welcome. I've never had a dog or a cat, but, you know, my friend's dog, I was very connected to her, and now I'm godmother to 2 other dogs. And when that one friend's dog passed, I was, you know, just, so sad. But anyway, there were 2 brief points I wanted to add into the conversation because I know it's at the end of your show. And one of the points was sometimes people might feel guilty for not grieving as hard or as long as they feel like they should, based on how much they loved their animal or friend or whomever, family member, whomever. And, you know, however hard or long one grieves is not necessarily a reflection of how deeply and how profoundly one loves, you know. So, you know, I just want to throw that out there because sometimes people might feel guilty that they're not grieving as long as they think they should or grieving as hard as they think they should.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then,
Oh, no, I was just saying, and what was the second thing? Sorry, we got a little crossed up there.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah, no
point. Thank you for
problem.
making
My phone
that.
might have-
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome. The other point that I wanted to make was, you know, it's also, you know, grief is grief. And, you know, I personally grieve over, I have chronic pain. I'm not able to do a lot of things I used to be able to do. And, you know, that's like a daily sort of a grief. Like, wow, I remember doing this and I can't now. And, you know, it's been over 10 years and it hasn't really, I've adapted, but, you know, I still feel grief over that. And, you know, it's okay to feel your feelings because otherwise they just get bottled up. And yeah,
Big time.
sometimes grief can last a long time, especially if it's something you have to deal with every day, such as pain or loss or whatever. You know, it's, yeah. So, yeah, just all that to say, it's okay. And, oh, you are so loved, and hugs.
Thank you.
Oh.
Yeah, I agree. Like grief, because, you know, we talked about a while back that I found out I had gastroparesis this year, and it is a grieving thing. I mean, I can't eat the way I used to. I can never eat fried foods again, and that really makes me sad. You know, like I just I see people eating stuff I can't eat or drinking stuff I can't drink, and you're just like, oh God, you know. And so it is a grief process to grieve what you can't do and be anymore. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you with I can't eat like 30 some foods myself, so I hear you on that on the food score.
Yeah, that's a rough one. That's a rough one.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Adria, for your contributions here this week. We really appreciate you calling in and sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thanks. All right. Thinking of you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
All right.
I was also going to say, too,
Yeah.
I remember her first point, like with the, you know, people thinking, oh, you didn't grieve long enough or, you know, grieve too long or whatever. I think, if I remember right, when Patton Oswalt's wife died, he got remarried pretty quickly, like within a year or so. And
I think 2 years, yeah.
Yeah, and I think people were giving him crap for it. And it's just like, that's his deal, you know? Like, if he was able to get over it that fast, fine. If he wasn't, and maybe this woman coming into his life helped him somehow get over it, you know, there could be all kinds of things.
Exactly. Yeah, people get real judgy about this, and I never really quite understood it because it's kind of like, what's the harm? What's the problem?
Yeah, and why is it any of your business anyway?
in many ways. I'm not going to say all circumstances, all contexts, because you know there's pathology and there's issues, there's problems, but they're few and far between compared to the way some people just get kind of jerky about it.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a call from Travis, and this last call we're going to take for the show, but Travis is always an interesting person, so let us pick this up and see what we've got. Hey, Travis.
Howdy, y'all.
Hey, welcome to the show.
I'm going to take a break from asking Scientology questions. I have 2 actual requests or ideas for both of y'all to think about.
Great.
That might be fun for both y'all and the audience. The first one is, you see back there, you guys have all that, what's that, the Iron Man on the wall?
Yeah.
Picture?
Yeah.
Please consider putting a portrait, if you have one, of 7.
We already were
on it, dude. In progress. Thank you for that. Yes. In progress.
Okay.
Yes. Next
I was going to say, maybe I need to squint while looking at my screen next time.
Yeah, no, it's just in progress. You're right. It's going to change, but I just wanted you to know we're on that one.
Of 7 there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, good. The other suggestion that I was going to have is, Chris, well, your channel has an intro, your Critical Clips intro and the whole thing.
Yeah.
It wouldn't hurt to have an outro where it's 1 or 2 seconds of said portrait of the cat with some stupid, caption like, "I'm watching you," or
yeah. And I've got so many pictures of him too.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. Yeah. That's not a bad idea. I'll think about that one. Thank you for that, Travis. That's a good suggestion. I definitely should do more with my outros anyway, so I'll think about that one.
Well, believe me, that would be cute. It would be an homage, and it would be something that your long-term fans would be able to identify with.
Big time. Yeah, totally appreciate that.
And Right. So that's it. That's all I have. Thank you for taking my call, and y'all have a better one, okay?
All right. Thanks,
you.
man. All right. 7 got that noted. And good. All right. Thank you guys for all of the wonderful commentary and everything. Somebody asked me earlier about a question about Scientology with stages of grief. Let me see if I can find this real fast because I wanted to tell you. Yes. Lori asks, I heard John Atack comment on how quickly you left the cult mindset. How long after leaving did you start to feel grief as you do now? A long time, actually. And at the same time, right away. It was a little bit of a complicated thing. But I talk about that, actually. The fuller answer to your question, the reason I wanted to bring that up real fast is because that's in the podcast this week. So tomorrow, tonight at midnight, whatever, tomorrow, the Sensibly Speaking podcast will post, and that will talk in much more detail about what I feel I've been going through over the last 9 years and how I relate that to stages of or elements of grief, according to that model. So check that out, guys. And otherwise, I think we have done as bang up a job as we know how to do in our tribute to 7. And you guys have been awesome. And thank you very, very, very much.
Yes, thank you.
For your supportive words and hugs and condolences. We really appreciate it. And life will go on. And the show will go on, of course, and as it must. And so we will be back next week. And I love how every couple of years somebody throws out my physical resemblance to Ben Stiller. This was in and out of the Sea Org, by the way. I mean, even all the way back then, I was getting Ben Stiller comparisons. I love it. All right, guys. So again, thank you for all of your wonderful comments and feedback on this one. We really appreciate it. And we know you're there with us. And we wanted to give 7 a goodbye that we thought would be fitting for him and, and you guys, give you guys a chance to say your goodbye to him as well. So that was what this show was mainly about. And I guess we will see you guys this weekend. Again, podcast, regular critical Q&A. And the return of the cards will be next week. I'm going to wrap up the show for now. So see you guys. Bye-bye.
Good night.